Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're all calling in from. Welcome to UX and Coffee. I'm excited to be here today. I'm excited to be live again with you all. I've taken a little bit of a hiatus. I've been doing some traveling and honestly taking a bit of a break, but I'm excited to be back. And I'm excited today to be here with KD. Welcome, KD.
Hi there.
Hello. I'm excited to be chatting with you today about UX leadership. It was fun to finally meet in person at the UXPA conference. Well, now it's been, I was about to say a month ago, a little more than a month ago now. Time's flying. But it was fun to finally meet in person. We've been, I feel like, dancing around each other for years, and I've known about you and I've known about your work, and it was fun to finally connect in person. Thank you for joining me here today.
Likewise.
Why don't we start, if you don't mind? Why don't you tell folks about your path, your history, what you're up to today in the UX world and in the UX leadership domain?
Great. Yeah, Singh, Arneja. Again, glad to be here and share my thoughts and have this fun chat. Been meaning to sit down with you, Jen, on this for a while now. So it was great to meet at UXPA. A lot of good conversations. So currently, I'm the senior director of user experience at a company called IMO Health, Chicago-based. We are a clinical data intelligence company. Uh, if I rewind my career, I've been in the industry for 20 plus years, primarily focused on software products and digital experiences. Most of the time was spent on enterprise SaaS products, and the bulk of my experiences in healthcare. In terms of my journey, I started my career as a UX UI developer, what you call UX developer now, with a mid-sized company, which then got bought by IBM. Then there were startups and some big companies and small companies, but I pivoted mostly towards UX completely, as I was more passionate about the who and the why and the business aspect of it. And product design in general was a lot more fun, challenging, and rewarding at the same time. Um, Along the way, I would say I had some great mentors and opportunities to settle into leadership roles on which I kept growing. Again, a lot of fun, a lot of challenges. You'll get to learn a lot. And my focus has always been um, starting from a small team and scaling, um, influencing product strategy, coupled with design strategy as they go hand in hand, um, hiring the best and coaching the designers to be the best version of themselves and making sure they don't make the same mistakes I did. And having a very efficient and high functioning and sought after UX team wherever possible. And focusing on always the minimum viable UX design ops and research ops that can put us on a path to scale and success, right? So around 2021, I started my own agency, hired a few designers, served 5 clients as fractional design officer, but um, in the agency mode, primarily as a consultant. But that's on the back burner right now. So that's a quick overview, but it's been fun. It's been fun so far, and lots that I've done, but lots to do more and lots to learn.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, what a resume you have. You know, what amazing experience going from um, director roles, principal roles, advisory roles, starting your own company. It's you've done a lot. You've done a lot, and I admire that. You know, there's still more to learn. That you have this kind of mentality. I admire that you say hire the best. You know, it's not about leadership. Isn't about being the best.
Mhm.
Leadership is about, in my opinion, hiring the best, and then, like you said, coaching them, training them, um, teaching them
Mhm.
about from your own mistakes, from your experiences, and then teaching them how to um, get past their own blocks, right? How to be better researchers, how to be better designers.
Exactly.
What do you think about? So you mentioned one of your specialties, one of your niches is scaling, right? Starting from zero. I'm going to use my own words, but like starting from zero, building a team. So let's talk a little bit about that. There's a lot of companies that still don't know what UX is, right? And then it's emerging. There's still so much growth for our
Mhm.
industry. There's still so many companies that need to bring in a UX team and do exactly that. Start from zero, build a team, grow and learn about the value of UX research.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about that. What's that like? What's that like to go into a company and start a practice? I've done this a few times in my career as well. I'd love to hear what your experience has been like.
Yeah. So that's what I like to talk a lot about when I give my talk about UX system, ecosystem of a UX leader. Um, First of all, you have to always know where you stand in your career, assess yourself. Like, what do you bring to the table? Do you want to be a lead? Do you want to be a people manager, or mix of both? Hands-on but management. Do you want to be at the director level where you are more in tune with business, but then operationally you want to really delegate to the team? You have to really assess that, right? Or you have to know yourself. And then when you are trying to get in a company, you don't know if they know UX or not. That's a great conversation to have. And the hiring manager, or why are you hiring a UX leader now? You've been in existence for 2 years. What have you been doing? Well, we have been using an agency. Okay, makes
Mm,
sense. Um, then why now? Why you need a resident UX leader or first UX designer? What are your needs? Oh, we want somebody to do something, everything from research to all the way up to icon design to journey mapping, service design. Well, then you have to be really honest with yourself. Can you do that, right?
mhm,
Do you want to get into that? Most designers just say, I just want to get into a job, let me do this. Yeah, maybe it's your first job, makes sense. But then you have to be very honest with the hiring manager and the company, what you bring to the table and what you can do. um, and then when you get in there, let's say you get in there and you negotiate your way, it's like, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I will do. I'm not very strong on research, but I'll do more design. Or I'm really strong on research, and I'll need some help on design. Or yeah, I'm more generalist, but bear with me. All right. Then see the company. What is the company doing? Where it stands? Is the products already making revenue, or is it an R&D phase? Would you have um, the wingspan to try different things, to fail, or to
mm,
try this approach versus that? Will you have that freedom or not? You have to assess. And if, let's say, now you join as a UX leader, let's say a manager, oh, we're going to build a team under you, or you're the first leader and will grow as a UX team. Great. But initially, even assess a UX maturity of the company. If even if you're inheriting a team of 3 or 4 or even 2, assess the maturity. Are they already working closely with the product management? Is design um, uh, a tactical tool, or is it actually a strategic tool? Like, what team you have in hand? What skills do you have? I always, when I hire new people or when I join a new company, I have a spreadsheet on all the aspects of the spectrum of UX discipline. Which are you strong on and you not? And that gives you an idea who you have to hire and fill those gaps. Then you have to formulate a 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 month plan, just like a
mm,
product manager will do for their products, on what you want to achieve. And you can't achieve everything. Most of the UX leaders get really ambitious and they
mhm,
try too many things and they fail on too many things, and that's why they have nothing to show at the end of 3 or 6 months. Pick 2 or 3 things that align with your goals as well as have an overlap with the business goals, right? Follow those and execute them really well. In terms of design ops, say, let's pick up the design ops, because you have to operate on design ops and research ops.
mhm,
I followed the Nissan Norman model of design ops, which has 3 aspects to it. How we work together, first of all, where you have to focus on the org structure, team composition, communities of practice. So even before you go into a design ops framework, like I think things I mentioned, you're already doing that, right? You
mhm,
already
mhm,
are assessing the team structure and team capabilities. Then, secondly, how do you want to get the work done, which is about principles, design processes, design systems, work allocation. Uh, and then, if you want to be hands-on designer, you cannot do all of that. You have to be at the thought leadership level on that. And finally, third, how your work or the team's work creates impact. And this is the most important. Most UX teams do some great work. Some of it ends up on the shelf, which is okay,
Mm-hmm.
but they never celebrate the win or
Mm.
visibility on it. So highlight metrics that got affected, success stories, and include your other counterparts that were involved. Share the credit. How that qual versus quant or combination of both got collected impacted the business results. You have to tell stories. So it's a great template, the Nisa Norman framework. I use it for design for research ops as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how you start to scale, and then you get few wins, and then you cover ground based on the plans you made, and then see what you can do next and what you can do next. But you have to go in tandem with what the business. You cannot be having a plan that's counterproductive to where the company or business is going. You have to influence it, yes, and you have to go along with it. You can have other initiatives going, which will put the company on a better path to do better to make better product decisions, to do better, good work, to have better business impacts. But you cannot be overly ambitious, and because you'll extend yourself really thin, and then even if you get the wins, the quality on those will not be great. So be very mindful of where you want to go and how you want to
Yeah.
scale. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned doing UX research that is aligned with business plans. This is something that I see as a big differentiator between really junior level, entry level researcher. For me, it's researchers. That's my domain. But I
Great.
imagine, design, content, same thing, where you can be an excellent researcher, you can be an excellent designer, but if you're working on things kind of in a silo, you're doing the best research ever,
Mhm.
but it's not aligned with where the business is going, then your job is kind of obsolete.
Yes.
This is not your pet project. They've
Yeah.
hired you to help
Exactly.
achieve business goals, and people sometimes forget that. I think egos get in the way because people are like, I'm an amazing researcher, I'm an amazing designer, but they're forgetting a company hired you because they need you to achieve the business goals.
Mhm.
So really getting in there and building those relationships, figuring out who you need to talk to really understand those business goals, and building
Exactly.
those relationships so you can make sure your work is constantly tied to those business goals.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's amazing how many people are still unaware of that. It's like a company hired you. You're here
Right.
to make that company succeed. If you
Right.
want to work on your pet project, start your own business.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right. And then to add to that, you might be a single researcher, fine. You still are doing some components of research ops. You have some aspects of that, or you might be a research manager with 5 researchers with you. You have to align the research ops activities with the other stakeholders, with other goals of the company, right? So that it gives you biggest bang for the buck. Let's just do research for the sake of it. That it might be fun for a while, but it won't pay off because the output that you might be getting will not resonate with the rest of the
Right.
company's leaders. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and we're not cheap.
Yeah.
We're not cheap. So they'll quickly look at what you're
No, no.
outputting and how it's not helping move the business
Yes.
forward, and they'll look at how much you're costing,
Yes.
and it's obsolete. Now granted, there are R&D efforts, right? Some
Mhm.
companies have R&D efforts, and that's a separate bucket, but even with those, there are R&D efforts that are aligned to
Yeah.
some business goals. Again, you're not going off and inventing some new research processes, or conducting something that's just fun for you. You
Mhm.
have to make sure that it's aligned with business goals.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about entering into a company? So there's a lot of, as I mentioned, there's a lot of companies that don't even have research, or I'm sorry, that don't even have UX,
Mhm.
right? Research, design, whatever, the whole thing. And they may not even be aware of what we do. Like I have been at companies where I'm the first UX researcher and I need to start a team,
Mhm.
and leadership, super senior leadership, they think I just do focus groups. They think I just chat with people.
Yeah.
It's like they don't quite understand the methods,
Yeah.
or they think, oh, you just do surveys. And it's like,
Yeah.
we do a little more than that. What recommendations do you have for um, educating super senior leadership who, they don't have a ton of time to sit around and whatever, maybe be formally educated or something. But what recommendations do you have to educate them and get them
Yeah,
on board so they even know what we do? They know the value.
yeah. Let's say you did get hired as a researcher or a research manager, and you find out very quickly that they don't know what research is. Yeah, you got hired because they thought a research function is needed, but not why. Let's say you're in this situation. Do not get academic. I I cannot impress this enough. You do not get academic. Like I can do all these techniques. We'll need this. We'll need that. No. Ask questions. What you have a business goal in 3 months that you want to achieve an outcome. Do you want to back that up with data? Would you like data for that? Would you like hard numbers? Would you like qualitative data? Would you the product that we're building, for example, um, let's say that you got that design from an external agency, you want to assess now whether that will resonate with the customers or not before you put investment in building it, or you want after it's got built, the MVPs out, you want to get some research from that usability studies after development. You understand that, right? Don't talk about methods. What do you want to understand? A sentiment or uh, the workflows that are in the product? Will they really work for the do the customers get the mental model? The users like it? Is there delight in the product, and they find the product usable? Do you want to get qualitative data on that? Yes, yes, okay. Then we will apply some methods. Again, do not get academic. We'll apply some methods. All we need is access to users, and then we'll apply some methods, some uh, you know industry standard approaches on how to get the qualitative data. If you want to get into details, we can do that. But if you want to see a plan, also we can show that. But all we need from you, the ask, that's what the executives like, right? What's the outcome and what do you want the ask to be for the exec? Okay, I want access to the users. Okay, go and talk to sales. They are the gatekeepers right now for users or customer success. And then most of the usability studies, you need X number of users, or most of the qualitative data, you need X number of users to talk to. And if you're doing an A/B test of whether this approach is better than that approach, then say, you know what, I don't even need to talk to users. Can you just get me a roster? I can just send out a maze test, right? Don't even have to say that maze is A/B testing. No, that's where you lose executives. Just
Mm-hmm.
talk business, talk goals. And that's why I understand the researchers who are early in their career, they don't have that acumen to stay at that level.
Mm-hmm.
But the industry is filled with mentors like you, right? Talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
understand how to approach executives and talk their language. You will make mistakes, but you will learn. If you're a smart person, you will learn along the way. And state your asks and requests, and then you show them a picture of the final outcome. Like, hey, Bob, once this whole the qualitative study has been done, the research is done, I will present you with an executive summary like this. Is that something that resonate with you? Yes. And I'll present you with a pie chart of negative, positive, neutral sentiment on this leg of the product. Would you like that? Yes. We're done. Well, you have made that contract with that executive rather than saying, we'll do some studies and we'll get back to you in 2 months. No. Have a
Right.
contract. And that's when they see that win, then they start trusting the function, not just even the person, but the function. Yeah, yeah, this role is working for us, and let's delve on it. A lot of companies, a lot of executives still don't realize how to get the ROI of research, or even
Right.
a general or design team. uh, I do believe that once you and every executive in every company is different. Once you understand their language, what they want, it becomes easier, right? And we don't have to do exactly what they want, but what is your end goal? You have to meet them there.
Yeah.
Well, let me flip that over to you in terms of you have done research in big companies, and whose products we use on a daily basis. Have you, um, in terms of explaining research jobs, or in terms of explaining why you're doing this research versus that, have you come across that scenario? What has been your experience and learnings?
Yeah. Well, similar to what you just described and what I share with a lot of people. It's like we build products, we need to understand our users, so we communicate with our users in a language that makes sense to them. We're giving them something they need, not something we think they need. It's the same thing, right? Who are our users of our research? They are these execs, there are these super senior level people, and we need to make sure we're using language that resonates with them. So like you said, like, don't get academic, and understand what resonates with them. Are they more quanti? Do they understand numbers better? Do they understand graphs and charts? Are they not quanti at all? Then do not use those. That's going to scare them away. They're not going to understand what it is. They're not going to understand the value. Maybe video clips are more valuable. Before you even begin research, if you're new at a company, maybe bringing in video clips that are publicly available. If you have any from any of your prior research that you can share, that you're not under NDA with. Anything that will literally show them this is what research is, so they don't think you're just off just chatting with people.
Yes, exactly.
One method I used at one company that was really it was really powerful is I grabbed some of these super senior people. This was very expensive because they were really senior, but I really wanted them to see what I do. Right? What is the value of what this is, of what UX research is, of a usability test, of a classic interview usability test. So I shortened the sessions, but I had them participate in a study where I said, like, I sat them down, I followed my script, I set up the recording equipment, I pulled up the website, and I said, all right, I'm putting on my researcher hat. So now I'm going to be in, I forget what I said, but basically, I'm acting, I'm in go mode. Like, this is what I do when I'm with my participants. And then I literally sat them through a session where they were the participant.
Right.
So not just showing them videos of other participants. And that was really powerful because they literally said to me at the end of the session, they were like, this is what you do. Yes. Like, oh, and they talked to me about what it felt like and what their experience was like. And I treated them the way I would treat my participants. So when they would turn and look to me and say, is that right? Am I doing this right? I would say, what would you do if I wasn't here? The same way I would do it with participants. So they understood I wasn't coaching participants along. I wasn't teaching people how to use the website, but I was literally there to learn from them.
Exactly.
So that was really powerful. But yeah, similarly, I've met with, now I've been at, Google and Facebook and these companies where obviously the UX teams are more sophisticated. So people know about UX research, but even in those companies, you can't assume that your stakeholders, your PMs, your eng leads, these folks, you can't assume they know what you do, how you do it, and the value you bring. Right. You can't assume they have worked with people prior to you who have demonstrated value, right? You don't know what their path has been. They may be new to the company, and maybe they've had startups, they've been in companies where there haven't been sophisticated teams, and they still don't know what you do. Yes. So I always want to kind of assess that initially, and you don't have to do a formal assessment. You don't have to have like a checklist and a questionnaire or something. You know from their lingo, know by the questions they're asking if they even understand what you do.
You would know even if you interviewed them, right? This person is pretty green. They're smart. That's why we hired them. But as far as understanding how UX works, they're pretty green. So, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And then, our approaches and our way of doing things will rub off on them. So.
Yeah, totally. And then I just pay attention. So if my first study, whatever that is, let's say it's a classic, usability test or something, or survey, whatever that first study is, right? I pay attention to their response. Is this resonating? Do they understand why we did this? Do they understand the findings, right? And sometimes you have to come back. You might have to do another study still with the same research objective because like they didn't quite understand the value. They didn't quite understand what we learned. Maybe I didn't communicate that really well, so I have to go back and maybe I need to gather more data. Maybe they're doing the whole, well, you only spoke to 8 users. It's like, okay, they don't understand that we only need 8 users to detect the biggest issues. But okay, it's not my job here to like dig my heels into the sand and say, we only need 8 users. It's my job to make sure they understand the research, so they understand the findings. So I go back, do another study, and come back. Right? So it's like this constant, you have to put your ego on the shelf. Right? When they don't understand the value you're bringing, you can't take that personally. It's my job to make sure they understand. Like, how can I make sure they understand? What do I need to change in myself? How do I need to change my communication to make
Yes.
sure they understand.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's the same thing with the reports, with design deliverables, with any of our deliverables, it's the same thing. You might put it together in a way that makes sense to you, or in a way that makes sense to all your past colleagues you've worked with,
Yeah.
but you don't know how it's going to work with your new colleagues.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to
Yeah.
share it in a different way, and iterate on those deliverables.
Yeah. It's perilous for us to assume, hey, you've been in industry for 15 years, you don't know what UX is. No, that's not the way to go. It's empathize with them, what they want to really understand, and meet them halfway, and say, you sometimes it's simply asking, would you like me to explain to you what we do here? I can bring a one
Mm.
slide or two slide deck to explain that. No, I don't
Yeah.
need that. Just, I trust what you guys do. Just share with me what outcomes look like, right?
Right.
That's more than enough sometimes.
Yeah. And that's ultimately what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they're like, I don't even want to know exactly what you did. Tell me what I need to know. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me
Yes.
what's working. What do we need to do next?
Right.
you
Exactly.
know and that's the other thing, like you mentioned, don't go academic. It's like sometimes researchers get bogged down in the details when they're presenting findings.
Mhm.
And you need to understand who you're presenting to. Again, who's your audience? What information do they need? Don't get bogged down in all the nitty gritty
Yeah.
details in the first 2 minutes of sharing findings if
Yeah.
that's not what's going to resonate,
That
right?
Yeah. Then that is my running theory, that is the number one reason why, whether designers are sharing their a story or researchers, that is the number one reason why executives tune out, right? Which is,
Right.
when you're celebrating a win, first of all, you have to celebrate a win. You had this study, you aligned early with product, say for example, on something, and you understood and you decided, negotiated what the outcome will look like. You did the whole project, and then when you present, you wrote a blog about it, great. You announced it somewhere, great. You even wrote a white paper based on this, fine. But then when you present it, uh, do not go into how the watch is working. Focus on how the time is told, or how the timing is read, right? And you go and describe the journey, and you tell a story about how we got to the win, rather than uh, the small milestones along the way. And then you can say, if you are interested in details, I'll show you that, but this is how we got there. My experience, that's always gotten the biggest mileage for myself and the team, where we focus on the win, and we celebrate how, look, this is now, with these outputs, we can make better product and design decisions, right? And you kind of put a soft pressure then on the product team, like, well, we better use this, it's work was done. And you hold them accountable also, like two months later,
Yes.
1 month later, like, the recommendations we made, or the design changes we made, did you put them on the roadmap or not? And because now you have data to show that it wasn't just something you pulled up out of thin air. You did proper studies behind it, and then it behooves us to make decisions based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I document all of that. So
Yes.
like that research deliverable, let's say a classic slide deck, or whatever, it could be a doc, whatever it is. I At the end, so after the study is complete, after we've delivered the recommendations, I log what decisions are being made. So then
Mhm.
you have that, and I put the date, I put who was in that meeting. So you
Yeah.
have that documentation, whether that be for your performance evaluation, honestly, or just because, again, what are we hired for? We're hired to improve products. So you want to log that. Was product actually improved? And if not, why? Why didn't they take those recommendations? You could come
Right.
back, like you said, 2 months later. If you continue to see the same findings over and over, you could reference your prior reports. Like we saw 2 months ago in that study, like we saw 6 months ago, we're seeing the same thing over and over.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned finding great mentors. So I coach folks in UX research, and there's a lot of people who, especially in these small companies, it'll be like a researcher reporting to a designer or vice versa.
Mhm.
How do you recommend finding a mentor? Do you find that internally? Do you find that externally? Some people don't have the support from their direct manager to
Mhm.
help them grow. How do you
Yeah.
find a great mentor?
That is, first of all, if you are a manager, you have to be a connector manager, right? If you can mentor somebody on your team in general on how to be a better designer, go for it, right? The things that you've learned, how you've learned them, share those stories, um, especially situational based. You can coach them on that. If not, then be honest about it. Now, this is outside my uh, wit because I've not come across this. Let me connect you with someone. And I mean, if you're a good UX community participant, you would know people. Hey, I have somebody on my team who has these questions. Be a connector manager, uh, and then sometimes that's externally, right? I have actually sent people from my team to go and talk to design research folks because they want to try something, and I have not had experience with that, and I don't want to get academic. Oh, here's a Google article. No, that's not helpful. Have them connect to a
Mm-hmm.
person outside. Um, or internally, if they're just struggling with understanding the business aspect, or what the why behind this, why we need to put this effort, or why we're doing this, you coach them. And then even if you want to go one step further, you connect them to your counterpart in business, in product, or in sales, or in growth team. Like, hey, I have a person on my team, can you share a bit more details, or collateral or deck that we have that will help this person understand the why? That's kind of mentoring as well, because
Mm-hmm.
you're nudging them towards the why, right? Which is a big component of a researcher, not only researcher but designer as well. um, and sometimes we just without the why, you would just sit down there and take orders, like design this. I don't care about the why. No. So you have to be a well connected, and that's why UX leader, it's a very different position. I think UX folks are very different kinds of professionals, because they have it's a wide spectrum discipline, and you are in a way expected to know all of it, but that's not reality. So you might be really strong in research or strong in design, and when you don't know those areas well, you have to connect with the wider community and say, "Hey, here's something I need help with." Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a lot of that, yeah, you can depend on mentors, but I also encourage a lot of the individual contributors to make their own community, dip into their own um, connections and channels, and um, ask. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. You're not going to look like a fool because you're learning.
Yeah.
And ask for help if you can. Yeah,
Yeah. I heard a quote recently: pay attention to who your mentors are. Their success is your success. And I
exactly.
love that, because it's like, choose a mentor who you look up to, who has something to teach you,
Mhm.
right? Don't just find a name on a list or something. Like, who do you want to learn from? Whether that's internally, whether that's externally. There's so many UX people who are mentors, who are
Yeah,
coaches, so like, find those people, ask around. If you don't know where to start, ask people you do know, and
yeah.
then get recommendations.
And you provide coaching. I provide coaching. I've coached over 50 UXers, both pro bono and for fee. We have ADP as a platform, right?
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
resources. Just
Yeah.
exactly be clear of what you want and what you need help with, and seek out those people properly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are over time. That the time just flies by so quickly. Thank you so much. If folks want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Or connect me through LinkedIn, um, and then I always respond to the LinkedIn messages, and then that's a good start from there.
Okay, awesome. And you all can find me on uxrcoach.com and also on LinkedIn. I'll make sure to put Katie's information in the comments. Thank you again. It's been so lovely talking to you. Thanks for
Likewise.
joining me today.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever you're from, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Take care.